This is episode 2, Self-Growth Diaries, and today we are talking about how to say no respectfully, clearly. Saying no can be hard. Sometimes it's very nerve-wracking if you haven't said it before a lot of times, because it just rattles you to your core. You feel like you're doing something wrong, and you feel like you're not flexible with that person, and you feel you're a bit selfish. So if you feel all these things and want to learn how to say no and be clear with it, but also respectful, because we don't want to say no in like a really harsh, rude tone that they can pick up and think that that was our intention. So the 3 subtopics we're going to be talking about in today's show are going to be why saying no is important and why we feel like, and the main or reasons why people feel like, why they feel selfish and why they feel really guilty about saying no. And the third and last subtopic we are going to be talking about is how to actually take that, what you learned today, into action and actually do it. So first topic, why is saying no important? So I actually searched this up on Google and I have it pulled up right here on my phone. And the AI overview says saying no, or quote, saying no is crucial for maintaining healthy boundaries, protecting one's time and energy, and ultimately promoting overall well-being. It allows individuals to prioritize their needs and focus on what truly matters, leading to increased productivity, happiness, and self-respect. I really agree with this overview, but I think just to add on to this, I think saying no is important because you get away from those people, those types of people who are trying to hurt you and hurt/harm you, and you get as far away as possible from those conversations and relationships, I feel like. Because if you set that boundary, if you say no, it's almost like a safety net. Like, it helps you avoid either those bad conversations, those bad people, those bad scenarios. And I think it also just protects your energy from being contaminated. I think saying no is a big problem that we all have because we're scared of saying no. Like, if we had a traumatic childhood when if you said no, you would get punished, you would get abused, something else would happen, I feel like then that has an impact, an even bigger impact in why you're not saying no more often. And as some other people said, and I say this as well to myself sometimes too, that no is a full sentence. And if you genuinely do not want to do something, then just don't do it. I know it sounds easier said than done. As I said before in this episode, that it's hard to say no to a specific person, to a specific place, to even events or opportunities. Now, I just want you guys to know I repeat a lot of stuff in this episode, so don't mind that. But going back to what I said, that saying no actually does help you avoid those type of people and situations. It really does. And it also, you also learn to let go of that resentment if you keep on saying no. And I think the reason why we say no so much is because we want to be accepted by other people and our peers. And that's just human nature. We just genuinely want to be liked by people. And obviously, you're not supposed to be liked by all people. And I think saying no is also a way of healing. Healing as in just healing your trauma and all of that resentment built up inside. Because if you keep saying yes to all the stuff that you generally do not want to do, then resentment's going to build up and being like, well, why did I choose that? Why did I want to do that? I didn't want to do that in the first place. And then that resentment keeps building up like pressure in the earth's surface, in the earth's core. And then soon enough, it will all burst out. At any moment, it will burst out. And I think to let go, to release that resentment, is to start by saying no and to start by setting boundaries. I'll even admit it's pretty hard to set boundaries as a younger person, because that's when like everybody's in their teenage or post-teenage phase and everyone wants to be cool. Everyone wants to be like that popular character in like those Disney movies, you know, like they want to be like that popular girl sitting with all the popular friends, and they just want to be liked generally by more people. And people think that they will get that by not saying no, by not turning down any events, by not turning down any people, by not turning down any opportunities. And I think that's what puts you especially in a box where you have to fit, you have to be liked, and you have to keep doing this in order to be liked. And I think when you put yourself in that box, it feels so pressuring, it feels so small. I mean, essentially, if you want to think about it like this, you can think about it as you being an animal in like a zoo, right? That you're stuck in a cage, or that you put yourself in the position to be in a cage and to keep that image of you and to not let it go anywhere else, to not let it drift away into your actual personality, or to not drift away from that box. And I think generally if you say no more, it makes people respect you more, because if you keep saying yes and yes to all those things you don't want to do, it just it's so exhausting, it's so tiring being put in the box every single day, every single time you're saying yes. It's tiring. It's very, very tiring. And let's go back to that part where I said people respect you more, because I think generally they do. Because people are not mind readers. They are not tarot readers. They cannot read your cards. Okay, they cannot read your mind, and they cannot read what you're going through and what you're actually saying, and they can't read your somewhat subtle hints that you put in the conversation, saying like, I actually don't want to do this, you know? And I think an example of that is when a friend asks you to go to a party, right? And you don't want to, you want to say no, right? Because maybe you're studying, maybe you're working with friends, maybe you just want to be alone, maybe you want to watch a movie, you know? And then you say, oh, sure, yeah, that sounds fun. I mean, it does not sound convincing. And even you say like, oh yeah, sure. Like, I think deep down, you can tell that you are being fake and that you genuinely do not want to do that. And I think some people pick that up sometimes. Sometimes they pick that up and they're like, well, are you sure you want to go? Right? They ask you a second time just to like make sure, you know, that you actually mean it, like you actually do want to go, instead of just saying as a front to protect whatever you want to do from that other person. And I think the point that I just said actually like ties into the second topic, where It's like why we feel guilty, why we're saying that. Because we genuinely want people to like us, you know? So the name of this second topic is why we feel guilty when saying no. Like what's like the science, what's the psychology behind that? And I'm actually gonna search that up right now to see. Okay, so I think the main reason why, and this is coming from me, not from Google, but why we feel guilty after saying no is because we A, want to be liked, or B, we feel responsible for the other person's feelings, you know, or we feel like we are like responsible for their feelings, right? Because if they react a certain way to you saying no, then you feel responsible for that. You feel like, oh, what I did right there, whenever I said no, caused that. Like, it's my fault that they reacted that way. So we're going to be diving into these two sub topics. So, as I said, A is you want to be liked more. And I say that because it is human nature. We want to be liked by everyone. Because if we're not liked by everyone, we kind of feel this, not dread, but like we feel so guilty. We feel like there's something wrong with us that caused them to not like us, or to think that we're not really worthy of them. And I think the main reason you or other people, like your friends or even parents or even adults sometimes, that they feel that they want to be liked is because they really want that validation, that external validation from other people. Because if you say something to yourself once, you won't really believe it. Like if you say like, oh, you're so mean, you know, to yourself, I think you believe it, but not, you like tolerate it. You acknowledge the fact that you said that, but you don't really believe it. You can make yourself believe it by overthinking, by spiraling, by saying all the reasons why you think that you're mean. But if you generally say that to yourself, then you kind of believe it. Like, you don't believe it, but you take it in. And you like hear that, but it doesn't hold any meaning to you, if that's like the right way to put it. But when someone else says that, when someone says, hey, you're mean, you know, it just feels so crushing. It feels like you're being brought down, and it just feels so bad. And I truly do not know why that is, like why we say something and we kind of take the meaning out of it. But whenever some people say the same thing, it feels so special. It feels so enlightening, you know, and it feels so good or so bad sometimes, right? I genuinely wonder why that is. Like, I really don't know why that is, why whenever someone else says it, we believe it more. Hold on, I'm drinking water. It just kind of makes no sense, because they're not you. Like, they're not in your shoes, but somehow we still believe them. That's why compliments, when we hear another person saying, oh, you're pretty, oh, thank you, like you feel so special because it's coming from someone else that is not you. It's coming from an external source that maybe you've never even seen the person before, or maybe you have, but they're just like a different person, right? They're not you, they're not your parents, like they're someone new. like that you haven't really met yet. And even if you have, if they're your friends that they're saying that to you, it just feels so special. And I might think that's because they are different people, and that's why, like, when we say no and they get aggressive about it or they don't like it, like, they're like, well, why? Then, like, we feel responsible because, or like, yeah, we feel responsible. We feel like we caused that reaction. That's another thing, tying back to the compliments. We feel like we caused that. We feel like we caused the compliments, you know? We feel like just because we were ourselves, just this front that we're putting up actually caused them to like us, to compliment us. And that can be applied to saying no as well. When you say no and someone else reacts to it really badly, or that they say they don't like it, or that they're like, well, why don't you want to go? Like, it's just a party, right? You feel like you caused that. You feel that you're responsible for the reaction. Well, babe, you're not. You're not responsible for their reaction. I mean, they're just them. It's their problem. It's their problem that they responded that way, you know? And generally, it's outside of our circle of control. You know, if you guys have seen, like, those circles of control, you know, I think it's like 2 circles. There's a smaller one, and that's what you can control. And outside of that is what you can't control. And one thing that I have to say for anybody listening to this is, you're not responsible for the other person's reaction. Like, you physically cannot control the other person's reaction. I mean, you really can't unless, like, you're an actor. like you're genuinely like an actor, like you're playing a part in a play. Then I get that, like how you can influence someone's reactions, right? Because it's not actually them, right? But in like a world sense, in like a public sense, you can't really control someone's reaction of you. You can't really control what they're gonna say about you or how they're gonna take what you said. And it can be interpreted in many different ways. If, for example, your friend wants to go get ice cream and you say no, they can have so many outcomes. Like, they can be happy about it. They can be like, oh, okay, I was going with Jessica anyway. Or they can be mad, they can be sad, they can be annoyed, they can be neutral about it, they can be like nonchalant about it and be like, all right, whatever. You know, there's so many emotions that you can't control. There's so many for you, but you also can't control for them, you know? And I think a major thing in this is the way you say it. Because there's a difference between, oh no, I don't want to go to the ice cream store, and them reacting like, why don't you want to go? And there's a difference between that and, oh, well, why don't you want to go? You know? And if you kind of see that tone transition, each of those why don't you want to go makes you feel different, right? The first one makes you feel like you caused that emotion to come out of them. Like, you are responsible for that, and it makes you feel guilty that they responded in such a mean, aggressive, passive-aggressive manner, right? But if the second one is like, oh, well, why don't you want to go? You know, like, you feel like you caused that reaction to cause, or you feel like you caused that reaction to be like cautious, to be wondering why you didn't want to go, like why you genuinely did not want to go. And you feel like you also caused that like caring from the other person. I think that's a really important thing, that the way you say stuff is magic. Like, you can say something, like it can have the meanest words in it, and you can say it in a mean tone, and people will get it. Like, they will be aggressive at you, but you can say it in like opposite tone. You can say in like a happy tone, and they'll be either confused or they'll like take it. They'll be like, oh, okay. The third subtopic of this video is, how do we actually take what we learned today and how to actually say no properly and also really politely, you know, because we, again, don't want to feel guilty of how the other person reacted, right? If they genuinely react like that, even if you said no politely and you set a boundary really politely and you had no really mean intention, and if they just like kind of got set off by that, it's their fault. I mean, you did not cause that, okay? I'm just gonna say that right now. You did not cause it. You did not cause the reaction, okay? It's just them, okay? Sadly, it's them, okay? So the first step to actually say no, to actually walk your butt out the door and actually say no, and to actually put it into real life, to actually apply it to your life, is honestly start small. Like, start small. Like, I'm genuinely like, start small. Like, you can start as small as literally being in your room and like pretending you're saying no to that person. Like, you could just literally be like, no, well, no, and keep doing that like all day. You know, because we gotta start small and then gradually build up, you know. And I think just by doing that and by giving you the feeling of saying no, and I guess the tone of how you're gonna say it, and like practicing that before you actually go and do it, I mean, it might help, honestly. I mean, I've kind of done that a few times. Like, imagine the scenario again and imagine how I would say no, because saying no is different for everyone. Like, people would just say, oh, well, I don't want to go to that, or people full on explain. They'll be like, no, I don't want to do that because blah 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 blah, you know. Or some people just straight out say no and like walk, you know. There's so many ways to say no, and there's very few polite options to say no, you know. So now that we're out of step one, now that we're practicing in your room saying no in all different tones and voices, and, you know, practicing what you're gonna say, step number two, I mean step number two has to be, learn to say it the correct way, right? Because if your friend again wants to ask you if you want to go to the ice cream shop, and you say, no, I don't, no, you know, like, that's not believable, guys. Like, I might feel like you're just scared of me. Like, if one of my friends said no like that, I would genuinely think that they're scared of me. And I would be like, what? Like, what did I do? So I think just learn how to say it clearly. That's step number two. Say it clearly and say it politely. So again, you can be practicing in your room saying no, you know? And I think the second step of step two is how to say it politely, right? Because we don't want to say, why would I do that? No. You know, we don't want them to genuinely have a reason to come at you in an aggressive way. Because if we give them the reason to be mad at us, right, and we say, no, why would I want to go to the ice cream shop? You know, then that is a reason for them to be mad. Like, I think every human would be mad or be annoyed or be irritated or be like thrown off by that, because you don't say no like that. Like, if you're gonna say no, say it right. Say it politely, guys. Okay. Don't do what I just did. Okay. And so just like say it politely. I'll try to think of some liners, like right at the spot, right now. How to say no, right? So say that friend again, okay? And you know what? Maybe we can give that friend a name. Maybe we can, I don't know, comment down below what you want to name our friend, okay? Boy or girl, any gender, okay? We'll just leave it they won't have a gender, okay? They just won't. And say that friend asks you for ice cream again, right? You could say no, but I appreciate it. You know, because if you say I appreciate it, but no, it just kind of like gives them hope, and then you come back down. You know, like then you get hope, and then you get shut down so quick. And I think the order that you say no as well is like a third subtopic to our step 2. You know, like say it in the right order. You know, don't say it like I appreciate it, but no, because then that kind of like gives them hope before you actually say your answer. You know, so I'd say like, oh no, well, I appreciate it. I appreciate you trying to invite me to get ice cream, but no thank you. Like, that sounds so simple, but I know when we go out in the real world, it's hard, guys. It's really nerve-wracking, honestly. Even I have trouble with this sometimes. Like, I am genuinely sometimes so scared, okay? Like, I am scared to go up to people and be like, well, no. Like, can you please not do that again? You know? I'm scared. People are scary out there, guys. I think another one-liner, I guess, would be no thank you. Or no thanks, I'm okay. Thank you for asking though. You know, like just thank them for asking, or like say I appreciate you asking me that, because it gives them that like little dopamine hit. Like it's like a little dopamine hit. Like, oh, they rejected, but it was nice. Thank you. I feel appreciated. I feel grateful that you were grateful that I asked you to go get ice cream. You know. And I think going back to the previous things I said in step 2 is definitely say it the right way. Because if you're at work or you're at school and your teacher or your boss or your colleagues don't do something you like, I think obviously you are not going to say out loud, well, no thanks. Or you're not going to say, well, why would I go to that? You know, I mean, you might say, I guess, but like to your boss, to your like higher ups, to your teacher, to your professor, I don't think you're gonna say that, you know. But you know what? Who knows? Maybe that's some people's way of saying no, you know, or saying boundary. But I think if you're with those higher ups, and if you're with people who have, I guess, more power. I mean, it's not power, but like who are higher up than you, I guess. I mean, they're not really higher up, but I don't know. Just like your boss, your teacher, your professor, you know. And if you're in a professional workplace, then I would go back to the first one-liner I said. Be like, I appreciate it, but no. Right? And if someone does something you don't like, and your boss or your teacher, your professor does it, you can say, hold on, let me think about this. You could say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. or however you call them, however you address them. Hi, blank, aka their name, their whatever, right? I don't like how you did that to me. That being whatever, like Professor Montgomery, I don't know, from Pretty Little Liars. I think you guys, some people will get that reference, right? Like Professor Montgomery. Okay, sorry. Okay. Professor Montgomery. I don't like how Professor Montgomery, I feel embarrassed. I feel irritated. I feel annoyed. I feel kind of sad that you called me out in front of the class and you joked about it as well. I didn't like that. And then he or she or whoever, would say, oh, well, I'm sorry. I won't do that again. And you could say, okay, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me about this. And then say bye or whatever, or just walk away and just go about your day, just do that. I mean, in a professional workplace, there's not much options that you could say. I mean, there might be, but I just don't know them. Because as I said, I'm a younger person, so I'm like I'm in those situations with our teachers, professors, higher ups, but they never really do stuff to me or to other people that like makes me upset or annoyed or irritated. But if one day that happens to you, you can just say what I said. Like, I feel blank about what blank you did to blank to me, And if you use the I feel blank, like that gives them kind of like a start. Like that gives them a start. It gives them like a insight to how you're feeling about the situation, right? Because if I were to say, Professor Montgomery, I don't like how you called me out in class today. Can you not do that again? There's the tone that was wrong, but there's also like my feelings. Like he could tell he would probably tell, or she would tell, that I was annoyed. Like I could tell by my tone. But I think that's where people get it wrong when you're saying no. Your tone doesn't always match your emotions, and I think the best way possible to say no is try to do it like neutrally, but also if they do something you don't like or you don't want to go to the ice cream store, you could be like, no. Be like, I appreciate it, but no, oh wait, never mind, that's the wrong order, my bad. Be like, no thank you, but I appreciate it. I just feel tired. Because that gives them A, your answer, and B, your explanation. You don't need to over-explain. You don't need to say why you don't want to go. You could just say, no, but I appreciate it. No, I'm tired, but I appreciate it. Like you can just say that because the explanation is in the sentence, but your answer's also in the sentence, so it gives them both. Because if you don't want to have a long talk about this, about you saying no, or about how someone wronged you in a way, you don't really want to have like one or two more sentences, okay? Like you just want to have a hit and go, and that's it. Like you did after that. Okay, and the most important step 3, just do it. I know you're scared, dude. I know it sucks. It's scary, okay? Honestly, it's scary, okay? Sometimes I even walk away. Like, sometimes I just wait until a later time to actually say no, or to actually put a boundary there that I didn't like what they did, And it's scary, but there is no right time, because if you keep putting it off, if you keep putting off not telling people your boundaries and keep putting off of you saying no, then it's gonna lead to that built-up resentment that earlier in the episode we kind of said to let go, to just forget about it, Okay, talking way too much. And I feel like if you keep putting it off, if you keep putting off saying no and not putting and placing your boundaries, then that resentment will obviously build up. But I think over time, you won't be able to trust yourself. I mean, I wouldn't, like, if I said, hey, I'm going to go back to that person and say, I didn't like that in 1 hour. And 1 hour passes. You're like, oh, I'll do it in the next 30 minutes. Okay. 30 minutes passes. And then you keep putting it off. And it just kind of has that, it kind of puts annoyance in you, because you're like, well, when are you going to do it? I think sooner rather than later. Try to put your boundaries, try to say no. And as I said, yes, you're scared. You know what? You can even run away. Honestly, do what I did. Okay? Honestly, I ran away. Like, I'm not even, like, I did not physically run away, but I, like, walked away. Like, I literally walked away all nervous. And then I composed myself. I was like, hey, no, you're smart. You're confident. You're hot. You're intelligent. Okay? And why do you need to impress them? Okay? And if they have a weird reaction about it, it's not your fault. Okay? And then I just kind of calmed myself down. You know, so, like, in that situation, you know, I walked away for a bit, like, really nervous. Like, I was super nervous. Like, my stomachs were in knots. It was flipping upside down. It was going from Mars back to, like, a basement. Like, it was scary, dude. It was very, very scary. And, you know, when I took the time to compose myself and to give affirmations to myself, it just kind of clicked. Like, I didn't really feel nervous, and, like, you still felt nervous, but you kind of just, like, affirmed yourself. You kind of, like, confirmed that, like, hey, you're nervous. And everyone is, like, at one point, everyone's going to be nervous. You know, and you can't control when you're nervous or when you're not. It's just the matter of timing, the matter of action. Like, just go do it, okay? Like, just go do it, okay? It might suck the first time, okay? Like, you might not say it clearly the first time, but you said no, right? You said it. I mean, you said the boundary. You set the boundary, you know? You said no. I mean, that's a work in progress, you know? Good job. High five yourself, you know? Go, woo! Or, like, hug yourself, you know? Like, congratulate yourself for that. And if you really don't want to do it, I would really just say, go walk away. Even run away really dramatically, okay? Like you're Cinderella at the ball and saying, oh, I have to go. And then just like walk, you know, and run away, you know? Like you can do that. You can compose yourself. You can take some time to actually see what's going on, you know? And I like to do this trick with myself that I set everything that I feel for a fact in an opinion, right? Because if that friend didn't want or asked me for ice cream and I said no, and they said, well, why? You know, in mean tone, after that day, or like that same day in bed, you know, I can, in my bed, I can reflect. I can be like, okay, so what's a fact about this conversation? I said no. Okay, what's another fact? They asked me for ice cream. Okay, what's another fact? They reacted in a way I did not want them to react. Okay, what's another fact? Well, I walked away after that. Okay, and what's an opinion? They did that on purpose. I caused that. They were not in a great mood today. That they're just a bad friend, you know? And you just really need to distinguish in conversations if after you say no or you set the boundary and the people who you said it to does not get it, who don't get it, and they react in a bad way, you should like reflect. You should have facts and opinion side. Like what actually happened, you know? Did they really meant to be a bad friend? And did they really mean that? Maybe. Guys, maybe they did. But do we care? Absolutely not.